I think we can start. Good morning to all participants from Brazil, and good evening to all participants joining us from ASEAN countries. Thank you all for being connected today. My name is Quintella. I am the ambassador of Brazil to Malaysia. It is a great honor for me to deliver the opening remarks for the webinar Brazil-ASEAN and Semiconductors, Unveiling Global South Synergies. Before we dive into the program, I would like to provide some context for this initiative. This webinar is part of a series known as Brazil-ASEAN Innovation Sessions, created by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Brazil to promote Brazil and ASEAN relations in the fields of science, technology, and innovation. In August, the Embassy of Brazil in Singapore organized a webinar on startups and venture capital. Today, the Embassy in Kuala Lumpur is organizing this webinar on semiconductors. And next December, our Embassy in Jakarta will be organizing one on sustainable mobility. Yu Chin Tong, thank you for joining us. Good evening. These webinars are aligned with two pillars of Brazilian foreign policy. First, we have the Innovation Diplomacy Program, which aims to showcase Brazil as an innovative nation on the international stage. And I should note that this program, the Innovation Diplomacy, may have contributed to place Brazil again amongst the top 50 innovative countries globally and the most innovative in Latin America, as indicated in the recently released Global Innovation Index 2023. Being an innovative nation is especially crucial for Brazil in our relation with ASEAN countries, and this relation is the second pillar I would like to highlight today. In 2022, Brazil became the first sectoral dialogue partner of ASEAN in Latin America. Brazil was also the first Latin American country to accede to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia. Our trade relations are very significant. ASEAN is a key trade partner of Brazil. Many people do not realize this, both in Malaysia and Brazil, but we export more to some ASEAN countries, including Malaysia and Singapore, than to some of our traditional partners in Europe and South America. From January to September 2023, for example, Brazil exported more to Malaysia than to the UK or to France. But we want our relations to go beyond the current trade pattern. We want to diversify it and to qualify it for both sides. Science, technology, and innovation plays a pivotal role in achieving this goal. To facilitate collaboration between Brazilian and ASEAN technology stakeholders, our Brazilian embassies in Kuala Lumpur, Hanoi, Jakarta, and Singapore have produced innovation ecosystems reports. Those reports are available to the public on the website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Brazil, and they map promising markets and opportunities. In the case of Malaysia, the report helped us here at the embassy to identify potential synergies between the Malaysian and the Brazilian semiconductor sectors. We all know that semiconductor chips are at the heart of our digital future, impacting geopolitics and economic development. Malaysia already plays a significant role in the global semiconductor supply chain, and its thriving electrical and electronics ecosystem is a priority under the recently launched New Industrial Master Plan 2030, for which I would like to congratulate, by the way, the Vice Minister at MITI. Congratulations. In parallel, under President Lula, Brazil actively promotes the semiconductor sector growth. By promoting connections between relevant stakeholders and raising mutual awareness, what this webinar today proposes is a strategical approach. In different scales, both countries, Brazil and Malaysia, have installed capacity, accumulated experience, geographical location, and skilled human resources, all those factors are enablers for a mutually beneficial collaboration. By bringing together high-ranking officials, private sector representatives, and research and development institutions, we aim for this webinar to be the start of concrete joint initiatives. Before giving the floor to our panelists and to our moderator, I would like to acknowledge the presence of my dear friend, YB Liu Tong, Deputy Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry of Malaysia, MITI, of Mr. Henrique de Oliveira Miguel, Secretary of Science and Technology for Digital Transformation at the Brazilian Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, and of Datuk Hanafi Sakri, Deputy Secretary General for Industry of MITI. I would also like to express my gratitude to all other panelists. And finally, a very special thanks to the supporting partners of this webinar, Brazilian and Malaysian associations, ABSEMI in Brazil, and Malaysia Semiconductor Association, MSIA. The presence of ABSEMI and MSIA, Mr. Rogério Nunes and Datoseri Wang Xiuhai, will be panelists today, and both institutions have supported this event from the beginning. A key partner to this event, MSIA will also moderate the panels through its director, and already a dear friend of the Embassy of Brazil in Kuala Lumpur, Mr. Andrew Chan. Andrew, thank you very much, and now I pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Ambassador Ari Quintella. Let me begin by congratulating you for this initiative of this webinar. It is indeed a great opportunity to raise awareness among ASEAN countries and Brazil. This is the first of a few roadshows that you're doing. So ladies and gentlemen, we have a 2-hour event divided into 4 panels with 2 panelists each, one from Brazil and one from Malaysia. And each panel will last for 20 minutes with 10 minutes allocated to each panelist to speak. So of the 4 panel discussions, we will have the first panel to discuss semiconductors and industrial policy, the second panel to discuss the overview of the semiconductor ecosystem in Brazil and in Southeast Asia. The third panel will be a dialogue on R&D, and the fourth panel will bring the private sector to the table between the Brazilian Semiconductor Industry Association as well as the Malaysian Semiconductor Industry Association. Following the 4 panels, only then will there be a Q&A. So there'll be no Q&A during the 4 panels. We'll have one Q&A for all 4 panels. So I invite everyone who have a question to please submit their questions through the Q&A function. You can see at the top there, and then we will hope to cover as many of these questions as possible. And after the Q&A, I will invite Vijay Kumar, my friend, to do a wrap-up session. And after he does the wrap-up, I'll ask Ambassador Ari Quintella again to present his closing remarks. And for everyone's information, this session will be recorded and the video will be published on the Embassy's page on YouTube tomorrow. So without further ado, let us commence our program for today. The first speaker and the inaugural panelist will be our YB Liu Tong, our Deputy Minister of the Malaysian Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, MITI, and YB will be speaking on semiconductors and industrial policy. We will also have a high-ranked official from the Malaysian, from the Ministry of the Brazilian side, MDIC, to do this panel discussion. So firstly, just a quick bio on YB Liu. YB Liu is the Deputy Minister of Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. He's currently the Member of Parliament for Iskandar Puteri, and he was previously the Senator in Dewan Negara from 2018 to 2021, and also served as the Deputy Defence Minister from 2018 to 2020. YB, you have now 10 minutes. Thank you, YB.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, my friend, Excellency Ari Quintella, Ambassador of Brazil to Kuala Lumpur, friends and honored guests from the Brazilian and also with us evening. I am sorry that after to leave for the Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers dinner, and I apologize for not being able to attend the entire session. I must congratulate His Excellency for this very innovative idea. I am amazed by your policy entrepreneurship, the ability to bring together people and bring together subject that we have actually not explored before. After you told me about this program, and I thought that there's really an opportunity for us to learn from each other, given that we are in many in similar stages of development, but in very different places. Even if we do not have mutual, actual, what they call collaborations, in terms of understanding each other's policies towards semiconductor and towards general industry will be very helpful. And therefore, I really appreciate this opportunity. The Malaysian semiconductor industry has a long history. Malaysia, when it received its independence in 1957, it was pursuing an import substitution industrialization policy up until about late 1960s, when there was a riot, there was a political crisis, and subsequently, Malaysia switched gear in early 1970s to turn to export-oriented industry. This entire cluster was built initially in Penang and subsequently throughout the country. In fact, Intel's first outsourced, first what they call the overseas factory, overseas investment was actually in Penang, Malaysia. So, and Intel started in 1972 in Penang, and that says a lot about the history of Malaysia being an investment destination for semiconductor industry way back in the early 1970s. Of course, the context is that Malaysia was not alone. There was Singapore, there was Malaysia, and subsequently also Thailand, a bit of Vietnam, which came in the 1990s and particularly after 2000s. But anyway, Malaysia occupies an interesting position globally. We are 7% global semiconductor trade, and we are approximately 13% of global chip assembly, testing, and packaging, which was done in this country. The significance of it is cannot be underestimated. Overall, electronic and electrical sector, Malaysia is the 6th largest exporters of semiconductor and largest exporter of E&E products throughout the world, in the world. That is the significance of where Malaysia is. To understand Malaysia's positions in the region, Malaysia, there are 10 ASEAN countries. Malaysia is not as sophisticated as Singapore. Our economy is not as sophisticated as Singapore, but more sophisticated compared to other regional peers, such as Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, and the Philippines. The difficult part for Malaysia now is that we do not have demographic dividend. We have a much smaller population compared to some regional peers, but we have a reasonably well-educated population, very well-educated regional standard, a stable English common law legal structure, as well as a strategic location straits and the South China Sea with very good logistic infrastructure. If you ask me how to position Malaysia, I will say that Malaysia occupies the indispensable middle in Southeast Asia. For the longest of time, in the last 20 years since China joined WTO, not many people realize that the importance of Southeast Asia, because most of the manufacturing investment went to China. But now with what is going on, whether the risk of this decoupling, with factories, with MNCs leaving China, or at least building redundancy and what they call the China +1 strategy, when everyone is re-looking at Southeast Asia, they will realize that Malaysia occupies an indispensable middle in Southeast Asia. We, the new government, led by Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar, which came into office in November last year, decided that reindustrialization is one of the key engine of growth moving forward. I would say that to summarize, we see that there are three major engine of growth that will propel Malaysia to a second economic takeoff. The last economic takeoff that Malaysia experienced was between 1988 and 1997. Subsequently, in 1997, we experienced the Asia financial crisis. In 1998, Prime Minister Anwar at that time was Deputy Prime Minister. He was sacked and he was jailed, and it resulted in a series of political crises. And in 2001, China joined WTO. So for a period of about 20, 25 years, we have not been doing that well. We're neither here nor there for around 25 years. But now the new government sees that we have at least three major engines of growth. The first one is reindustrialization. The second one is green transition. We believe that green transition, the demand for greening up supply chain, the demand for renewable energy, the demand to transition mobility into a green mobility, all this will be investment opportunity for us to tap into. And the third one will be what I call tech up. We call tech up because technological up or technology. What I mean by tech up includes automation, digitalization, innovation, and also general adoptions of technology. Over the last 20 years, Malaysia has been heavily dependent on unskilled foreign labor. So we have artificially suppressed wages. Wages has been very low, and we have been we have been seeing many Malaysians working as cheap labor in Singapore because the wage difference is too huge. It's 1 to 3 at least. So moving forward, we want to push for technological upgrade. We want to see across the board there will be technological upgrade so that we can actually move away from unskilled foreign labor and move into higher wages, higher productivity, and higher growth. So we have just, as Ambassador pointed out, the Prime Minister have just launched the new Industrial Master Plan on 1st of September. For the first time, we have adopted not a sectorial approach. We used to adopt a sectorial approach when it comes to Industrial Master Plan, but this is the first time we have adopted a mission-based approach. We are influenced by Mariana Mazzucato when it comes to mission. We believe that industrialization or economic growth should be driven towards certain common missions. And the 4 missions we outline in the new Industrial Master Plan are as follows. First, we want to increase our economic complexity. The Malaysian semiconductor industry is very strong in back end, but we would like to see a lot more front end activities. We want to have a more complex and more sophisticated economy, as well as with a lot more complex, complexity in our production, in our products. So that the first mission is to increase complexity across the board, particularly in semiconductor and also semiconductor-related trade. Second, as I mentioned earlier, tech up. We believe that tech up is important: automation, digitalization, innovation, adoption of technology. Number 3, push for net zero. We would like to see our industry, including the semiconductor industry. Many of our semiconductor industry are multinational companies, and they have principal, they have capitals, and they have global commitment to renewable energy or global commitment to net zero. And we want to push that as fast as possible, and therefore we want to push for net zero. And we see that pushing for net zero sometimes can be a burden, but sometimes can also be an opportunity for new investment, as I mentioned earlier. And finally, the 4th mission is to see that whatever we do will increase economic security in its multiple and multifaceted definition, as well as increase economic inclusivity. We want to have a more inclusive nation. We set a very ambitious target. At the moment, the 2021 medium wage for Malaysia was for manufacturing was 1,976 ringgit. We have a very strange situation. Manufacturing medium wage is lower than medium wage, general medium wage, but we set a very high target. We want to increase it by 2.5 times within the period of 7 years in manufacturing, because we believe that economic growth has to contribute to economic inclusivity, and it has to contribute to better wages, better life, and better business opportunity, and that is the general missions that we are trying to pursue. I think I will leave. Oh, okay. One final point is, over the years, we have been our semiconductor industry is generally about 70% multinationals and 30% local. We have seen increasingly many local firms becoming more and more important and becoming more and more gaining capability. There is a joke that most of the local firms are started by Intel graduates like Dato Sri Wong Siu Hai. We have basically many of those local firms are started by Malaysians who either work in one of these MNCs, or they have been supplying, or they've been working as a contractor or outsource contractors, and from there they become very important. We believe that this is not a bad model. This is not a bad model. This is a good model where the constant interactions between multinationals and domestic firms, as well as the constant attempt or pursuit of being part of the global supply chain. I think this is the strength of the semiconductor industry in Malaysia. Now, to conclude, again, I want to thank you, Excellency. This is a wonderful opportunity and a wonderful initiative. As I say, we have a lot to learn from each other. And it will be interesting to see countries like us. And in fact, I think the other countries which are very similar to our situations in terms of semiconductor and also in terms of our position in global supply chain is Ireland. It'll be interesting to see how to compare notes. And I think among governments, we should compare notes a lot more so that we can coordinate policies. So that as you stated in your title, the Global South should coordinate its policies, should find synergies, and finding synergies and the policy coordinations among developing countries will be very interesting. I thank you for this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liu Jintong. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, YB. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated, YB. Now we will hear from Secretary Enrique Miguel, Secretary of Science and Technology for Digital Transformation of the Brazilian Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, MCTI. He will present an overview of the semiconductor sector in Brazil. So let me introduce Secretary Enrique. Secretary Enrique graduated in electronic engineering from the University of Brasilia and has extensive experience in the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. Secretary Miguel has led several committees of industrial and technological policies, including those of the National Science, Technology and Innovation Strategy, and for the elaboration of the support program for technological and industrial development of the semiconductor industry, PADIS, established in 2007. Secretary Miguel, I can see your slides and you now have 10 minutes, Secretary Miguel. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Henrique de Oliveira Miguel. I am an electronic engineer. And since 1987, I have worked at Ministry of Science and Technology. Since April, I have held the position of Secretary of Science and Technology for Digital Transformation at the Brazilian Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation. Firstly, I would like to congratulate the representatives of Malaysia, Brazilian Malaysian government, embassies, Asian and SEMI, MCA and YABSEMI, and the R&D institutions, and well as everyone who is participating in this webinar. Special thanks to the organizers for this event. In the next minutes, I will show us a general overview of the semiconductors top here in Brazil, resuming in a few slides, bringing past, current, and future actions from the federal government's point of view. Thank you very much for your attention. Please confirm, did you see my presentation or not?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I changed to the next slides. Please confirm. It's okay?
Not yet. Yes, we can see your next slide. Thank you.
Yes? Okay. These slides shows a summarized timeline with the main actions that have been carried out in the last 20 years. As a historical context, it is important to highlight that we already had a semiconductor ecosystem in the 80s years with large companies, but which unfortunately ended in the 19 years. Since 2007, the most important public policies is called PADIS, which I will explain in the next slides. PADIS stands for Semiconductor Industry Development Support Program. It was created in 2007, and its main objectives are encourage R&D in semiconductors in the country, stimulate the implementation, expansion, and consolidation of national productive capacity, foster and strengthen the industry academia and industry ITO integration. As secondary objectives, we have development the semiconductor production chain in Brazil, participate in the global semiconductor chain. Basically, PADIS grants benefits in the form of financial credits proportional to the investments made by companies in R&D. In addition to credits, companies have several taxes equals to zero, but there is a counterpart for companies, which is to invest at least 5% of their revenue in R&D projects. On these slides, we show some large PADIS numbers, highlighting in the central circles that today we have around 15 companies that benefit from this program. Of these, the majority are companies that specialize in the back-end stage, and even though they are apparently a small number, they represent a significant back-end hub outside of Asia. We consider these a great opportunity for countries that want to complement or diversify their semiconductor supply chain in terms of back-end stage. The next slides. On these slides, in a more didactic way, we show the three main stages of the semiconductors value chain on the left side, including R&D, which is transversal to all of them. For each of these stages, Brazil developed a specific public policies trying to promote the sector and attract investments. In the case of the design stage, several training programs with emphasis on Brazil-ASEAN and a specific program, Brazilian program, a two-year training course where students are technically trained and go through periods of internalization to learn about the semiconductor ecosystems in the countries. And finally, a hands-on training stage where students face real company challenges. This resulted in 8 design companies and about 500 designers in Brazil. Okay, these designers now they work abroad. Okay, in the front-end stage, Brazil had 2 attempts. One of them, Unitec, unfortunately was never opened, despite there being a 5,000 square meter clean room structure. The second one, Ceitec, is a state-owned company linked to our ministry inside of science and technology, which operated for approximately 10 years, but which was put into liquidation in the last government in 2012. Now, in the current government, the resumption of CETEC is priority, and a group of work has been studying new possibilities and new technological routes for the company. Continuing in the back-end stage, as already mentioned in the previous slides, we have the main hub in the world outside of Asia. This was possible thanks to incentives from the Information Technology Law and PADIS. Finally, in the R&D pillar, we have several ICTs and universities that carry out joint projects with companies that benefit from PADIS and, thanks to this policy, are able to acquire modern equipment, and some of them have small clean rooms where new packaging processes are tested. Well, now, and what is happening now in Brazil? We are awaiting the approval of a new broader incentive program for the semiconductor sector, which we can call a Brazilian Act. I believe that Mr. Luis Felipe Gesteira possibly may comment about this new program. We have some training programs running at the moment with emphasis on innovative IC and a new version of the old Brazilian IC program, already mentioned in the previous slides, whose new feature is the entrepreneurship content. The idea here in the new program, it's not only to train designers, but also entrepreneurs who can create a new generation of design house. We are also working on some missions that should take place this year, both to Europe and to the United States, with the aim of getting to know the state of the art of some European and American R&D centers, in addition to trying to attract investments to Brazil. Next year, we plan missions to Asia, probably start with Malaysia, and the South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and Singapore. The issues of resuming CETEC has already mentioned, have already been commented on previously. It's underway in the Brazilian government, and by the end of the year, this year, the company will be able to operate again. And finally, in relation to R&D projects, we have invested in developments based on RISC-V chips for IoT and also on advanced packaging. The next slides. Okay, this is my last slides. Let's talk about the future. Brazil understands that we are living in a unique moment in the history of semiconductors, caused not only by COVID-19, but also by geopolitical issues. We hope to expand our relationship with other countries involved in development and production of semiconductors. We can collaborate with everyone, and we are open and willing to do so. We know that no country will be able to work alone in this segment, so partnerships are inevitable. We also know that participation of government is essential, that we must be very close to academia and industry. We remember that Brazil has an important back-end hub outside Asia. We have excellent engineers who have been exported to several countries for over 20 years, and we have the only factory in the southern hemisphere about to go into operation again. Therefore, in conclusion, we want to approve the Brazilian Act, we want to expand our semiconductor ecosystem, strengthen our design houses, foster in our design house, diversifying our back end, and attract investment to the front end. Thank you for everyone's attention, and I am available for clarify any doubts. Thank you very much, Mr. Andrew Chan, and all the team that participate of this webinar. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Secretary Enrique. Thank you very much. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Panel 1, I think we heard from YB Liu, where he talked about Malaysia second takeoff. He talked that we are going to reindustrialize the green transition and the tech up. And from Brazil, I'm happy to see that there's a Brazil Chip Act similar to the other Chip Acts, and they're also following similar strategies like what we have in the new industrial master plan, which is the IC design, back end, front end, quite similar to Malaysia. So there are areas of opportunity. Now for our second panel discussion, we will have the Brazilian perspective on semiconductor and industrial policy. We will have Mr. Felipe Gisteria, Director of the Department of Development of High Technological Complexity Industry from the Ministry of Development, Industry, Trade and Services, MDIC. He'll be presenting Secretary Wallace Moreira, who can't be with us, unfortunately, with us this evening. So, Mr. Gisteria, just a quick introduction, is a member of the Specialist in Public Policies and Government Management, EPPGG career since 1997. He has worked as an advisor and also as an executive on economic matters, especially on topics relating to industrial competition and technological innovation policies. He has a bachelor degree and a master's degree in economics and a PhD in economic theory. Mr. Gisteria, you have the floor for 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chen.
No problem. Floor is yours.
Are you hearing to me perfectly?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, good evening, everybody. I must start apologizing for the absence of my secretary, Mr. Wallace Moreira. He's truly, it was truly impossible to him to be here because, as you surely know, we live in a ministry and also in the vice presidency here. So sometimes it's the vice president that's calling him, and he has no freedom to choose his agenda. So I really apologize for that. I'll try to do my best. I thank you. I thank for Brazilian embassy and all Brazilian government colleagues, both in Malaysia and Brazil. And of course, I also salute the Malaysian representatives and stakeholders that are listening to me in this evening in Kuala Lumpur. Well, I'm afraid I will be a little repetitive after Secretary Henrique told a few words, but if I see that I'm starting to be a little over that, I'll jump to the next point. But I don't have slides, and I'll just speak on my presentation, which is called the Semiconductor Industry in the New Brazilian Industrial Policy. And as you pointed out, it has many similarities with the Industrial Policy Master Plan, Malaysian Master Plan. Well, starting with a very brief historical taking stock, I could say, Brazil was among the first countries in the world to develop a chip in the USP, University of São Paulo Microelectronics Laboratory in 1971. So as far as I know, it was among the six countries that was first got to produce and test successfully a chip. And until the end of the 80s, this initiative, always with strong government support, evolved into the formation of a very complete ecosystem based on ICTs, Science and Technology Institutions, and nationally owned companies, and integrated into the so-called National Information Technology Policy, as we use it to call it by up to the 1990s. This policy was subject to of great controversy in Brazil in the last decades of the last century. It was originally born linked to the national security policy. As you know, Brazil had an authoritarian regime by that time. But even after Brazil redemocratized it in 1984, this policy was supported by the developmentalist wing of the civil government, we may say. Despite being affected by the strong economic slowdown in the 80s in Brazil due to the debt crisis, and I think most of you know, but Brazil was a very dynamic economy, growing close to 7% GDP growth, 7% a year for more than 30 years. Even so, some results of this, what I call the National Information Technology Policy, were good, were important. We could say that practically all segments of the ICT chain had Brazilian companies operating. And Brazil was one of the first countries to develop fiber, I don't know the optical fiber, I think it's the name in English, and advanced technology, telephone centrals, and was among the global leaders in banking computing. I'm talking about something like 1986 and 87. And almost all of large universities in Brazil had good computer and electronic engineering courses, and some of their labs develop projects on advanced topics in the field. Nevertheless, in the early 90s, Brazil was relatively behind in many niches, and but enjoyed functional. We could say that enjoyed functional self-sufficiency. So it was technologically lagging behind, but we have a sizable, important, even very inward-oriented ICT ecosystem. Among this, in the system, we have a sizable semiconductor industry and some science and technology institutions. Well, but then came the liberal shocks starting in 1990. And from this year up to 2005, Brazil experienced a period of true industrial policy. Although some science and technology institutions have survived and even prospered, Brazilian industry has almost completely disappeared in those 15 years. From 2005 onwards, Brazil resumed industrial policy for the sector, and which has the PADIS, the support program for technological development of the semiconductor and display industry, as the leader of this new industrial policy. In addition, as Henrique has previously mentioned, we created two state-owned or with large state participation companies, which are Ceitec and Unitec, one of them in Rio Grande do Sul and the other in Minas Gerais. PADIS had to be reformulated together with other programs after Brazil was defeated in a panel in the WTO, led by Japan and the European Union in 2016. Even so, and even with the serious economic crisis that reduced Brazilian GDP by almost 10% between 2015 and 2017, it can be said that the program, I mean PADIS, has achieved significant successes. Currently, the program promotes financial credit of nearly $120 million per year. And this level has been growing slowly, very slowly, but it has not prevented Brazilian industry from growing from a turnover of less than $100 million in 2010 to more than $1 billion last year, I mean 2022. With similar growth in exports, we are very, very tiny shareholder for world exports in this segment, of course, but it's growing, and also in R&D. To give you a broader perspective, Brazilian electronic industry is, as a whole, is only 18th globally, compared to a GDP that's 9th. And it's very, very inward oriented, as it was from the beginning, from the start in the 70s. An outstanding feature of our productive and innovation system is that Brazil kept advancing in science and technology, while our manufacturing sector is in fact stagnant. Maybe the complexity indexes of Hausmann and Hidalgo, many of you I'm sure know them, can give you a good measure of the resultant asymmetry. Brazil ranks 49th in economic complexity, 2021. Malaysia, just to have a comparison, is 24th, much smaller economy, but it's 24th in economic complexity. But we are 12th in technology compared to 38th from Malaysia, and 20th in science. And we are improving our position in technology and science, but our economic complexity keeps going down. It's really not a good news for economists. And but 5 months ago, as you surely know, Brazilian resumed industrial policy at a strategic level, because as you know, PAGIS never stopped. It goes up and down, but it started in 2007, and then it kept going for all these years, even the neoliberal years. And but now we are resuming more strategic industrial policy, which has no very interesting name. It's just new industrial policy, and but it's also inspired by the Mariana Mazzucato approach of missions. And I'll name those missions, just 6 missions, and just to be more aware of what we are trying to do the next 4 years here. It's the first is the sustainable and digital agro-industrial chains for food, nutritional, and energy security. So we are concerned about our foods national security here, but we are also very concerned about our capabilities to have to some degree autonomous dynamism in this sector. The second is resilient health industrial complex to reduce our health system vulnerabilities, which we could see during the COVID pandemics, and expand access to health of the population, which is rather good in Brazil nowadays. The third is sustainable infrastructure. The fourth is digital transformation in the industry with a focus on productivity. And fifth, bioeconomy, decarbonization, and energy transition. And sixth, and that's the last one, technologies of interest of national sovereignty and defense. I think that we are still working on the specific actions, initiatives, acts we will take regarding these main missions. We are trying to make goals for them. And in fact, this week we are in several meetings very close to the place where I'm talking to you. But let me talk a little more about what Henrique Miguel promised me to do. I will talk a little about our new version of PAGIS, which is it's a law.
Mr. Quintella, you got to finish soon, huh?
Yes. Just 3 more minutes. Among those new actions, there's the creation of a management council. And we're trying to address a better governance of the whole industrial policy for the semiconductor sector here. We also authorize our two main agencies, which are BNDES and FINEP, to create long-term credit lines to even to guarantee finance direct capital and funding costs. And we are also aiming at infrastructure, the whole infrastructure, information technology infrastructure, and also the acquisition of machinery and equipment, and also new labs, new infrastructure for R&D. Third, there's the expansion of the possibility of purchasing inputs with tax reliefs. It's a very, very large list. I won't list them, but I'm totally able to give you more details on that. We have a new category of final product that can be produced, that can be elected for Padis grants, with our systems that enable the machine module and electronic device that uses semiconductors. So we are looking at some demand incentives here. And also we have a new list of activities that can be considered eligible to receive resources of R&D. And last but not least, we have qualified legal entity invests in the country, trying to grow the R&D investment to 5% of the total turnover. We have another minor modifications in our present law, but we are pretty sure that we'll make this total of resources that could be used to make our semiconductor industry grow. We are expecting that to grow like threefold in the next 3 or 4 years. And I'm sorry to have passed 5 minutes my time, and but that's my message. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Quintella. Thank you very much. Let's move on to our next panelist. The next segment is the overview of the semiconductor sector in ASEAN. Unfortunately, Linda Tan, who is the president of SEMI Southeast Asia, can't make it. She has another urgent appointment, so she has pre-recorded a video for us. And for everyone's benefit, SEMI Southeast Asia is the organizer of the Semicon Southeast Asia, which is happening every year. And for next year, it's happening from May 28th to the 30th, 2024 in Kuala Lumpur. So can we play the video from Linda Tan, please? Thank you.
Good evening, good morning to everyone. I'm Linda Tan, President of SEMI Southeast Asia, who is in charge of the growth and development of the Southeast Asia region. Thank you, Embassy of Brazil and Malaysia, for inviting me to deliver an overview of semiconductor ecosystem. I would like to start off by giving a quick intro of SEMI. SEMI is a global industry association representing the electronics manufacturing and design supply chain. Our vision focuses on supporting our members' innovation to deliver societal and economic benefits worldwide. The foundation of our mission is to advance the growth and prosperity of our member companies' ecosystem in a free and open global marketplace. So, SEMI was founded in 1970 with less than 10 US-based members, and today, SEMI has evolved with over 3,000 member companies worldwide, spanning the electronics design and manufacturing supply chain. We now are an all-encompassing global association that offers a comprehensive suite of programs and initiatives, such as tech programs and communities, market intelligence report, think tanks, global advocacy, workforce talent development, online learning management system, sustainability, and supply chain initiative. This is part of our efforts to cultivate collaboration, drive action, and synchronizes innovation amongst our member companies and industry to accelerate business results. SEMI has global footprints in 8 regions, namely US, Europe, Taiwan, India, Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia. With our technology communities such as Design Alliance, MEMS and Sensors, SOI Consortium, Fab Owners Association, and FlexTech Alliance, SEMI connects members companies from the entire supply chain, which includes equipment and materials, to fabless and foundry, to electronic system. Supported by our 4 strong smart initiatives, SEMI brings our global members to a gateway of approximately $2.8 trillion. So our Southeast Asia region is steered by 19 board members who are industry captains. They provide guidance and direction for SEMI Southeast Asia. SEMI Southeast Asia enables partner by providing business relevance and support growth of our members. We focus on building the talent pipeline for our industry through our workforce development programs and bridge our members across our SEMI global platforms. Most importantly, position Southeast Asia as an attractive and resilient manufacturing choice of location. So what's on the minds of the global CEOs? Outlook of the global economy, building a resilient company, path to net zero, talent shortages, and supply chain redesign. SEMI will play an proactive role to support the CEOs in path to net zero, building the talent pipeline and supply chain redesign. No one single company can solve this problem by themselves. To help our members, companies, and the industries, SEMI has placed priorities in workforce development, supply chain management, and sustainability. I'm going to touch on SEMI sustainability initiative. So, in line with COP27 last year, SEMI has launched the Semiconductor Climate Consortium and brought together 85 companies to work on solutions towards the goal of 1.5 degrees pathway. With this consortium, there are multiple work groups formed across the world to address key challenges of the industry. Just last month, SEMI released the first baselining report of the semiconductor ecosystem's greenhouse gas emission profile with the most comprehensive available data from the industry. The report confirmed that 80% of our emission can be mitigated through low carbon energy usage. This effort lays the path to building low carbon energy capacity. The SEMI Supply Chain Management Initiative is a one-of-a-kind global platform that brings together top industry leaders to advance a more resilient and agile electronics supply chain. Through deep dives, educational forums, benchmarking, standards development, and strategic partnerships, the initiative seeks to empower members to anticipate and respond to future disruption proactively. SEMI Supply Chain Management's mission is to create a blueprint for a more resilient and agile manufacturing supply chain. This initiative leverages on SEMI's broad and deep industry reach to unite members companies from every sector of the electronics ecosystem to collectively identify and address pressing challenges. SEMI is committed to drive engagement, facilitate data collection, and ensure alignment in global end-to-end supply chain continuity. There are 2 work groups formed globally to address these challenges, one on resiliency and the other on the agility of the supply chain. The industry is expected to hit $1 trillion by 2030. There will be a shortage of about 900,000 workers globally. With that in mind, SEMI is here to support the industry with a holistic plan developed by our workforce and talent team, targeting from young talents to the current workforce and the industry veterans. Most recently, SEMI works with ST Microelectronics in Muar, Malaysia to promote STEM education through our High-Tech U program, and engages with the university students to inspire and promote STEM careers through our Talent Connect programs around the regions. We have also launched our online learning management systems that offer more than 500 courses that covers from the introductory of semiconductors to data AI techniques, EHS, front-end and back-end processing, as well as FA. This is to respond to the learning needs of the industry. Courses are designed by the industry for the industry. As of today, we have subscriptions from 47 countries. Before I proceed, I would like to thank our SEMI Market Intelligence team for putting together the following data to be shared at this webinar today. We are still seeing market softening in 2023. For electronic sales, first half 2023 saw a decrease of 7% year-on-year, and we observed a 2% year-on-year decline for Q3, but a 10% increase from the previous quarter. As we expect a sequential recovery in electronics unit shipments, we also anticipate a rebound in this quarter. As for IC sales, first half 2023 saw a 25% year-on-year decline due to a plummet in memory sales of over 50%. IC sales in Q3 has declined year-on-year, but we anticipate a 6% increase in this quarter. This is due to an uptick in end-user demand. We believe IC sales have reached the lowest point, and we see light to recovery. The IC inventory level remains a concern as it continues to increase in Q3 2023 in absolute dollar terms, though year-on-year growth has slowed down. Overall, the supply chain is still in the process of digesting inventory. We expect normalization will come to an end late this year. On the other hand, partially due to high inventory, fab utilization continues to decline. In the first half of 2023, we observed around 77% utilization compared to the high of over 90% in first half of 2022. We expect the decline to continue in the current quarter, and the recovery seems to be muted. We believe the fab utilization will hit rock bottom sometimes in first quarter 2024. In short, there is a buildup of inventory in 2023, resulting in low fab utilization. Touching on semiconductor forecast. In this decade, the industry will continue to push towards $1 trillion with the developments in the AI segment driving exponential growth. 91 fabs are forecasted to come online within the next 3 years, and of this, 6 will be in Southeast Asia. With the new disruptions and geopolitical tensions, the semiconductor industry here in Southeast Asia is expecting a significant growth in the coming years. The increase in fab spending will bring good news to the equipment companies. Phones and PCs demand continue to weaken in 2023, but we see strong growth in ADAS, electric vehicles, and high-powered computing. Moving forward, the industry will be mainly driven by automotive and AI markets, and expected CAGR to reach 4.6% by 2027. So what does this semiconductor growth mean for Southeast Asia? East Asia benefited from the escalating geopolitical tensions between US and China, and global companies are diversifying their supply chain. Southeast Asia, being a neutral region with a well-established and diverse semiconductor ecosystem, will attract FDIs into the region. And as a result, our region today is in a sweet spot as the preferred manufacturing location. Southeast Asia accounts for US $200 billion in exports of chips, commanding 22.5% share of the global semiconductor export. With the diversity across the value chain from R&D and IC design, wafer fabrication, and back-end manufacturing, ASEAN's strength in manufacturing competencies has positioned ourselves as the second largest exporter of the semiconductor globally. In summary, semiconductor demand is in a cyclical downturn suggested by the downward trends of the fab utilization and high inventory level. However, the market is expected to recover in 2024. The market will be driven by AI, high-performance computing, 5G, and automotive. Southeast Asia stands to benefit from the megatrend of regional manufacturing. Amidst the geopolitical tensions, companies will diversify their supply chain in Southeast Asia region. With this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the webinar.
Thank you. So that was Linda Tan, the president of SEMI, for her video presentation. We are halfway through our 4 panels, 2 down, 2 to go. Since we started slightly late, we will try to aim to end around 9:15 p.m. in Malaysia time and whatever time it is in Brazil. I'm sorry. So moving on to our 3rd panel, we're going to discuss on research and development, an area I think that there's a lot of potential for collaboration. So first up is from Malaysia, we will have Dr. Lee Heng Wah. He is the head of the Center for Semiconductor and Thin Film Research of MIMOS, which is the Malaysian Institute of Microelectronic Systems. Dr. Lee is a technology expert. He's an expert in semiconductor, advanced materials, advanced packaging, printed electronics, nanotechnology, graphite, and nano characterization. He's also a senior member of the IEEE and the chairman of the National Mirror Committee on nanotechnology for electrotechnical products and systems for the International Electrotechnical Commission. Dr. Lee, we look forward to your presentation. You have 10 minutes. Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. First of all, good evening to Your Excellency, Eric Quintella, Ambassador of Brazil to Malaysia, Your Honorable YB Liu Chin Tong, Deputy Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry of Malaysia, Your Honorable YB Dato Sri Wong, President of MSIA, esteemed panelists, moderator, experts, and all participants. So I would like to apologize on behalf of Dr. Iskandar, who is unable to attend due to unforeseen circumstances. Nevertheless, I will try to convey his message during this session. So I'm going to start off our presentation on MIMOS aspiration to drive the R&D in terms of high-value semiconductor technology research and innovation. To kick off, I'm going to give a brief introduction of MIMOS. So MIMOS is basically a strategic agency under the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. And our vision is to be a frontier applied research center in E&E. And our mission is to pioneer innovative and technology development towards creating a local industry that is globally competitive. So we have around 600 staff in MIMOS with 200 strong researchers in MIMOS. And we have already generated more than 1,000 intellectual properties in the areas of ICT, microelectronics, and also semiconductors. So we have a lot of laboratories in MIMOS, but for the sake of today's session, I'm going to focus more on the semiconductor laboratories. So we have 2 wafer fabrication laboratories facilities in MIMOS. The first laboratory is called Fab 1, where it houses a lot of those R&D activity in terms of those novel new material synthesis, process technology, and device development. The second Fab 2 is basically the small-scale pilot production lab facilities, and we have capability in terms of the node size from 0.5 to 200 nanometers. So we don't have the capability to go up to smaller scale node, but we are going to plan to leverage on whatever node size that we have to pursue on the next generation semiconductor development in terms of wide bandgap semiconductor. Apart from the wafer fabrication, we also have one of the best equipped failure and material analysis laboratories in Malaysia. So this laboratory is able to support non-destructive and electrical analysis, physical analysis, and up to material analysis. And all our laboratories in terms of semiconductor facilities comply to the international standards compliance. So as you can see, so we have capabilities to drive R&D projects in cross-cutting domain from the design, wafer fabrication, assembly, test, and packaging up to electronics module and subsystem development. So a lot of our R&D projects are in collaboration with industry partners with the participation of a lot of universities and academic institutions. Apart from that, we also provide a lot of services in terms of technical and scientific services, and also technical talents development to the industry as well. So all our R&D projects are aligned to the national aspiration, which is the New Industrial Master Plan 2030 and also the E&E Technology Development Roadmap. So moving forward, we would like to embrace the philosophy that we want to push a lot of our front-end R&D activities, and the front-end activities that we foresee includes design, wafer fabrication, and also advanced packaging, because we foresee that in the future, in terms of design, for examples, we are not limited to IC design only, because we want to also embrace the philosophy of taking simulation up to the next level in terms of the wafer process fabrication and also packaging and system level types of simulation. And this is also, there's recently an article from Semi Engineering mentioning that everyone's a system engineer with heterogeneous integration, only published 2nd October 2023, which support these types of philosophy. So moving forward, these are the three main sectors or areas that we want to embrace on in terms of our R&D focus. The first one is basically on the wide bandgap semiconductors, and this is, as mentioned earlier, aligned with whatever wafer fabrication capability that we have at present. It doesn't need a very high, a small node size, and 200 nanometer is able to support the development in this area. And obviously, we want to also support our local OSAS industry to move into the advanced packaging development so that they can move up the value chain, and also support our automated test equipment in terms of the electronic modules and system development. At the same time, we are going to establish a semiconductor research consortium. So this is where we are going to be the central facilities that is going to be accessible to all national semiconductors research activities in the academia and also research institute. So this will allow us to synergize all our efforts to focus on our national priority areas and to avoid duplication. So, and moving forward, there are some partnership activities that I foresee both Brazil and Malaysia can look forward to partners on. So we have a lot of inspiration to drive towards to target towards the net zero 2050, and one of the main areas of activities that we want to embrace on is on the deployment of solar. But in Malaysia, you'll be able to see that a lot of those large-scale solar farm deployment are focusing a lot of in the integration, installation, and services activities. So a lot of the other electronics components that are housed that involved in this deployment are basically imported from overseas. So this takes up around 40 to 50% of the overall cost. So if we leverage on our capability in terms of the electronics manufacturing, and we can develop our own balance of systems like electronic modules and subsystems, and we can see that we can capture around 1 to 2 billion of investment or market year annually. And some might argue that this might be a small portion, but if we look at in Brazil, you already hit a 30 gigawatt milestone in terms of solar deployment. So imagine if you at Brazil can also develop all this balance of system locally in Brazil in partnership with Malaysian counterparts. So I think we can capture a bigger market in the future. Similarly, so this is for the electric vehicle sector. So a lot of those electrical modules and subsystems can also be developed locally in partnership with Brazil. So Brazil also has a large domestic market in terms of the EV moving forward. So this is some area that we can look to partner on. So as a summary, now we already have a very good state and government roles in orchestrating an effective policy implementation through the NIMP 2030 E&E Roadmap Technology Development 2021 to 2023. And now it already has published a lot of technology focus and alignment for the nation in terms of IC design, fabrication, advanced packaging, and ATE, which is to support our existing stronghold in terms of the OSATs and also ATE to move up the value chain. And subsequently, we can also look to enhance and develop more in terms of electronic modules and subsystems to support the ever-emerging electrification and also renewable energy segment. And MIMOS is going to establish a central national shared facility to our consortium effort. So we hope that Brazil will have some kind of similar effort that we can work together on. And obviously, we will collaborate and partners together to leverage on our existing capabilities and market access for future technology development. So we're going to embrace the whole of nation approach moving forward. Okay, that's all for my presentation today. Thank you very much.
You need to
Dr.
unmute
Lee,
mic.
the mic, you need to turn off your mic, Dr. Lee.
No, I turn on.
You have to turn on the mic, yes. Yeah, good. Now it's okay.
Okay. Again, and maybe I didn't turn on my mic again. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lee. Let me just repeat. I said that it was a good presentation. You have already suggested some areas for potential collaboration between Brazil and Malaysia. So hopefully we can have some discussion later on if we have time. Next, I want to invite Jose Eduardo Bertuzzo. He's the executive of the product technologies at the El Dorado Research Institute. And he graduated in the electrical engineering from the State University of Campinas in Brazil in 1983. And since then, he's been very heavily involved in R&D projects with years of international experience in various R&D laboratories in IBM and in Europe. He joined the El Dorado Institute in 2004 and was responsible for establishing the IC and hardware design area at El Dorado. Mr. Bertuzzo, we are pleased to have you at this discussion. You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Could you guys hear me well? So
yes.
I would like to okay, thank you. First of all, good morning, good evening to everybody. I would like to thank you, all the organization, for this invitation. A pleasure to me to be here. So what I'm going to do is, in this 10 minutes, is try to talk a little bit what we do in R&D in this segment in Brazil. The idea is to be like an extract of what we do in Brazil, and again, later on, also propose 2 segments which we could do the collaboration, okay? Thank you so much. So, just a little bit introduction about El Dorado. We are a private institute. I think Secretary Henrique Miguel spoke a little bit about the informatics law, parties, and so on. So I would say that we are straight results from those policies here in Brazil. It's a 23 years old institute. We have sites from Manaus, Brasília, Campinas, and Porto Alegre. Just to give an idea, it's a 5-hour flight from Porto Alegre to Manaus. So we try to spread all over Brazil our operation. Okay, so we have around 1,060 people working today at El Dorado, and we run typically 200 projects each year for 80 different customers. Okay, just to give an idea of, and we cover, of course, microelectronics from design, packaging, but also we do a lot of work in the digital transformation and ICT information and communication areas as well. Just a brief summary what we do in terms of technology in this segment. We support, again, based on what Secretary Henrique Miguel, we have since 15, 20 years a policy to induce a new design house in Brazil. So we have one branch that support chip design. We go from front-end design, digital, analog, mixed signal, everything, up to the back-end, synthesis, layout, and routing. And We run projects from 180 nanometer up to the point of 5 nanometer that we are running right now this year, right? We're glad to say that we did already tape out with Celterra, but we work also with tape outs with different companies, mainly those that were in the list of secretary, to provide support in this area, providing expertise, also providing access to the tools. Some of those companies were a startup back in 12 years ago, so there is also a program to support them access to EDA tools to start their business in terms of chip design. The other branch is related to packaging. You know, I think Rogério Nunes from Absemi and also from Smart, head of Smart Modular Technologies, you know, will I think go into more details later on. But there is a very important business in terms of packaging in Brazil. So again, the institute is a private, not-for-profit organization. 90% of our revenue comes from companies. So we keep, you know, what we do is really always related to the strategic roadmap provided by the companies. We try to be tied up with what the companies need in the future. So we also have them. A part of what we do is related to packaging design, from layout, signal integrity, routing, everything related to advanced package design. Also, we are moving the last 3-4 years in the heterogeneous packaging, heterogeneous integration. First with the photonics, we're designing modules, especially for high-speed communication through fiber. We are actually designing chips and also the modules to reach 800 giga per fiber, right? And also to support the process, because again, we work in the intermediate tier also. We are not doing research. We go to applied research up to develop the product. So we have infrastructure that would provide testing and also design the testing software for chip design, right, for the chips, and also a prototyping through what we call a prototype lab for packaging as well. And through the qualification, we are full feature capability of JEDEC qualification of modules. Here's some pictures of our packaging lab, which is a collaboration with the Smart Modular Technologies company. So we are able to do stacking and, you know, maybe Rogério Nunes later would give a little more details and a little bit of what we are, the kind of equipment we have in our lab that allows to do in terms of advanced packaging. One thing that I would like also to address here is, before the opportunities, is give a very brief idea about what we have in terms of microelectronics. We have around 50 research groups dedicated to the semiconductor. They are spread all over, you know, main Brazilian universities. And PADIs had created and helped to create 2 technological institutes, what we call research technology organizations. One is Eldorado, the other is ITT Chip in the south of Brazil, that are dedicated to the top of integrated circuit design and advanced package, right? So it is something very important because it was not so usual in Brazil in the past to have organization like this that is in the process of bridging the gap in terms of the technology evolution, bringing innovation to the products down the stream, right? So this is something that PADIs allow to happen in Brazil, and with support of the companies, which is very interesting approach. Another thing is Secretary told us about 500 designers, right? So in fact, we estimated that only 25-30% of the designs that were prepared by this extensive research groups really are working in Brazil. So matching this 500 will be like almost 2,000 people spread all over the world working in the technology companies in the segment of the semiconductor. One side, we are sad because eventually we are not able to provide the opportunity to those people that get prepared inside our universities and our research centers. But on the other hand, we are happy because we are able, it's proof by that we're able to prepare people with the right skills and valuable skills to the industry. So we think this as an opportunity for us to increase our competitivity in terms of semiconductor industry, attracting and keeping the people here, providing them opportunities into design and into this industry. So by that, I would like to switch, and there is a very good coincidence in the areas that I'm bringing here, because one, of course, is the advanced packaging. Since we are really tied up with what the industry is doing in Brazil, and we have a consolidated industry in this back-end area, we foresee, a very good opportunity in terms of advanced packaging, heterogeneous integration, driving by integration, heterogeneous integration through the, 2.5D, 3D, system in a packaging, all the technologies, multi-die packaging, interposers, embedded die, TSV, micro bumping, wafer to wafer bonding, even eventually hybrid bonding, and of course, chiplet approach, of course, something that's being discussed all over as a great technological opportunity. We foresee for the high-end kind of but we foresee the approach and the concept as also interesting to apply in the system in a packaging kind of approach, where you can build up by building blocks some specific kind of application and in a specific kind of requirements that eventually we would have in Brazil that could have some matching in other countries around, and especially in automotive, for instance, where we foresee that by the ethanol business we have in Brazil, eventually we will not follow the full electrical car, but eventually a sort of a hybrid car. So that means that we will have to eventually, along with other countries that will have similar kind of a situation, develop some specific kind of technology. So this is kind of opportunity in terms of the market in which we could use the advanced packaging technology to fulfill the gap. The same apply for health, energy, smart cities, and agribusiness as well, which is a very important business, by the way, here in Brazil, and we need to keep up. And the way to keep up is to really put the technology in the front end of the agribusiness as well. The second we are considering as well is the wide bandgap semiconductor, specifically the silicon carbide. We see application in solar inverters, automotive and mobility, especially in this situation that we will have a late adoption of electrification, passing by eventually a hybrid or light hybrid, and of course, charging infrastructure, right? So there is a roadmap for silicon carbide. We think that is getting a momentum because this 1200 volts kind of platform is catching up for charging, for automotive kind of application, and as well for photovoltaic converter. So that means that volumes are building up around this kind of platform that could bring some opportunities. Just brought here some markets for inverters, for instance, solar and also automotive inverters, showing a steady growing. That I think will be an opportunity some way, especially because, as was mentioned before by colleague Dr. Lee, it is a technology. The power MOSFET transistor doesn't require very low deep nodes to produce regular, and like 600 nanometer kind of technology could provide some with adaptations, a possibility to produce those modules, right? So, and again, as was already mentioned, Brazil just hit 30 gigawatt milestone. The interesting thing is that half of this was done in the last 18 months. That shows us a very good opportunity in terms of market, because it's catching up fast. And another thing that is very interesting, around 70% is in this distribute generation, which brings a lot of challenge in terms of how you control the grid, right? And because this is moving so fast in Brazil, I think there is opportunity to increase local content in the inverters, and also deploy intelligence on those inverters in order to provide in the future better control of this grid. Because we see already in some places, even in Brazil, some blackouts created by the percentage of this kind of generation being too high, and any problem could be the cause of a blackout. So there's a challenge, technical challenge, and I think the answer will be providing and giving some intelligence in the edge, in the inverters, and which is, I think, is a good opportunity. And Brazil already has some players in this segment providing inverters. And again, as in Malaysia, most of what we do right now is integration, installation, and service. So there is here a good opportunity to increase the added value by doing the modules, by eventually going up to the point that we can design and produce silicon carbide power MOSFETs in the future. Right, gentlemen, that's all that I have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Brutuzzo. I was going to ask you to wrap up. Thank you very much. I guess it's very difficult to have limit the time. You know, it's just almost like a preview of what to expect. We will need to organize follow-up discussions with each one of these things. Thank you, Mr. Brutuzzo, for your presentation. Also, areas of collaboration, something for MIMOS and ourselves also to see where we can collaborate. Now on to our final panel discussion. It is based on the industry perspective. We have got both the Malaysia and the Brazil Semiconductor Industry Association. Firstly, from Malaysia, Dato Sri Wong Siu Hai. He has 29 years of working in the E&E industry in Malaysia, semiconductor industry. He started his career at Intel, and since then he's been an advocate and a big supporter of the semiconductor and electronics industry in Malaysia. He is currently very involved in all things electronics and industry. He is also the president of the Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association, for which I'm from there as well. So can I invite Dato Sri Wong Siu Hai to give his presentation? Dato Sri Wong, thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And also I'd like to congratulate Ambassador Quintella for organizing this Brazil-ASEAN and Semiconductors this event, webinar, as well as inviting me to this forum. So thank you very much. First of all, let me introduce the E&E industry in Malaysia. Next, please. Yeah. Okay, this industry or this association came about as a result of the pandemic. Okay, during the pandemic, this E&E industry or the semiconductor industry was not very well organized. We were not able to get our voice across on some of the concerns and issues facing the industry. So we decided to get it organized, and in January 2021, we formed this MSIA, the Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association, and it was launched on April 6, 2021 by our Deputy Meeting Minister at that time, Dato' Lim Ban Hong. The 4 key areas that we are focusing on is R&D and technology, trying to strategically grow this segment and be more involved in design development and acquiring new technology. Then we have the ecosystem. We want to build and enhance our current ecosystem from merely assembly test to more and beyond assembly and test. Of course, we are the collective voice for the semiconductor industry, where we advocate the industry's issues as well as recommendations to the government as to be how to be globally competitive as well. So these are the 4 areas that we focus on. Somehow there is a black thing on my screen. I don't know why. Next, please. Yeah. So since the January 2021, we now have 206 members from 10 states in the country, and whose parent company or their headquarters come from 18 countries. The members, 44% of members are from Malaysia, US, Canada, and Asia Pacific, about 24%, and Europe, about 9%. Next, please. Oh, one more thing, that we, for the voice of the E&E industry, we have been sought after by all international media, not just Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, to ask of our opinions and inputs of the industry, as well as Bloomberg and CNBC. We were interviewed on the TV 4 times by CNBC and twice by Bloomberg during the peak of the shortage of the semiconductor components. Next, please. We generated a map to commemorate our 50th anniversary, was celebrated last year. And this map just shows all our members that spread out throughout the whole country. So just now I told you about the 10 states. The biggest one is in Penang, on the island. I don't know whether you can point there. Up north on the left-hand side, where the line shows, this is the bulk of the members. We have about half the members from the northern region, which we dub it as the Silicon Valley of the East. And then we have companies spread throughout the whole of Malaysia, all the way to the south in Johor, as well as we have a company in Sarawak called XFAB, and another member all the way on the east coast, which is Kelantan, ROM, Kelantan. So this is how the spread out is, and hopefully we can enhance of this map over the next couple of years to show the cluster. Okay, now we're just showing our members. Next. So last year, as I said, we celebrated 50 years anniversary. You heard earlier by our Deputy Minister that we started in 1972. And since then, we have grown by leaps and bounds, to until last year with 50 years, and this year 51 years. So in 1972, our export value was 230 million, and last year it was 593 billion. So you can see this growth, not only just from semiconductor, but semiconductor has grown into solar, LEDs, medical device, and many more. We have expanded in that area and enhancing the supply chain. Not only that, we have many global companies, Malaysian companies, who are called powerhouses of Malaysia, that has gone global and have the potential, all the potential to go global. Next. So this is just some of our association events. Every year we hold an E&E forum. The next one coming up is will be held on November 6th. So if you all can dial in, it's hybrid. You can also dial in and listen to some of the topics that we are presenting and discuss. And in August, we held our Malaysia Merdeka celebration. It is our annual dinner kind of a thing. And so we have also other events like ESG, where we had a tremendous response, because we're trying to get more companies embarking on the sustainability and ESG, especially the Malaysian companies itself. We also participated in the Semicon Southeast Asia this year with a Malaysian pavilion, and we intend to have the same in Kuala Lumpur with a Malaysian pavilion. Next. So as you know, as mentioned a few times already, that Malaysia is a key player in the global semiconductor supply chain. 7% of the total global semiconductor trade flows through Malaysia, and the capacity of assembly tests, we have about 13% of that capacity located in Malaysia. So Malaysia actually is among the top 10 in the world in terms of contribution to the global semiconductor supply chain. Next, yeah, okay. This one just shows the contributions of the E&E industry in Malaysia. As you know, in 2021, the export was at 456 billion ringgit, and that was an increase, 18% increase over 2020. In 2022, it was 593 billion ringgit, and it is a 30% increase over 2021. So the total export from E&E industry now is averaging around between 38 to 40%. Okay, then that's quite significant. As you can see, the January to August number for 2023 is about 380 billion versus last year, January to August 2022, it is also about 380. So this one is about 1 billion, slightly more than last year. What is this showing is that there is the semiconductor export is holding in Malaysia. Most of the countries, they are going down, but we are holding. And one of the reasons for this is the geopolitical tension that we have, companies moving their volume from China to Malaysia. Now, the other things that you can see here is that for employment, the E&E industry contributes something like 590 jobs, 1,000 of jobs, and contribution to GDP is about 6.85% to the country. Other dimensions include, other than manufacturing, we have technology and knowledge transfer, global supply chain, design development, and global and regional leadership. We have many leaders who are leading the companies in Malaysia, not just in Malaysia, in Vietnam, and in China. Next. So this is the graph that shows how we have performed for the E&E industry. The cumulative annual growth rate is about 13% over the last 7 years, and accounting 38%, which I've already covered. Okay, next. So for RMK12 and the National Industrial Master Plan 2023, MSIA actually spent a lot of time contributing to the development of the plan, especially for E&E. So for the first time in the Malaysia National Plan, E&E is classified as a strategic and a high impact industry. Is one of the 8. In the past Malaysia plans, it is all buried under manufacturing. So this is how we have influenced the government to understand the importance of this industry and why it is important for the government to support it and nurture it and grow it. Next. So, as you know, it was just now presented by Linda, the semiconductor revenue, global semiconductor revenue for 2022 is about 550 billion US. It is projected to grow to 1 trillion US by 2030. So the question is, how is everyone positioning itself to participate in that growth? So for Malaysia, we have talked about enhancing our ecosystem, going up the value chain, and trying to grow at the same rate as the global growth. So one of them is to attract FDI fabs, that is 28 nanometers to probably 40 nanometers. If we can get that, that would be good, because we are already very strong in assembly and test, and we need to just enhance ourselves to go up the value chain into wafer fab. We have some wafer fab, but I think we really need more. Then we are looking at how do we develop Malaysian homegrown companies, especially in design development. So we are also, again, very strong in automation, especially for the semiconductor industry. However, there are many more that we can do to make them into a global company, and also develop SME, especially in their growth and keeping up with technology by getting the multinational as well as a large local company to buy local. So our approach, as we explain to the government, double down on where we are successful and can compete, and then move up the value chain into wafer fab and design development. We have now, for example, in IC design, we have a few IC design companies, probably not enough, local companies. We have many foreign MNC design companies, IC design companies, but for local Malaysian companies are very few. But we are proud to say that for first time, we have a company who can do IC product design. Most of the IC companies we have in the past are mainly providing design services. So hopefully they can be successful. For a 3-year-old company, they already have more than 20 IPs, and hopefully we can get their product completed and then grow that company and become a global company. Last but not least is the war on talent. As you know, the whole world says that they are short of talent, and they have to do something. You know, in our country, Malaysia, we have about 10 to 20% of our talents leave the country for so-called greener pastures. And I assume other countries also face the same problem. That created a hole. And also we have, on the other end, fewer students start taking up science and engineering. So what is happening is that other countries are using our talent, taking away our talent by coming to Malaysia to hire our talent, and they could leave for countries like Singapore, US, England, Australia, and so on. It now include Taiwan and China. We are advocating to our government that we need to have the same strategy to use other countries' talents to help the Malaysian E&E industry to grow and flourish, and especially in design development. So that's a challenge that we are working on, and hopefully we'll make progress in that area. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sri Wong. Thank you for presentation. Last but not least, we want to hear from Mr. Rogério Nunes, who is the president of the Brazilian Association of the Semiconductor Industry. He's also the president of the Smart Modular Technologies in Brazil, and he serves as the director of the Brazilian Electric and Electronics Industries Association for the electric and electronic component sector. Mr. Rogério holds a bachelor degree in electronic engineering and an MBA in business management. I want to invite Mr. Nunes. You have 10 minutes for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you see my screen and you hear me well.
Yes, we can. We hear you well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So good morning for the America. Good afternoon from Europe. Good night for Asia. It's already late. I'll try to make this presentation real quick. But before, I would like to compliment the Dr. Ari Quintella, Ambassador of Brazil. In name of him, compliment all the government officers here present. Also compliment Mr. Liu Ching Tong, Deputy Minister of MITI, and in name of him, compliment all the government officers from Malaysia, and also from Mr. Anju Cham, compliment all the industry leaders here present. So I'm going to speak a little bit. My major goal here is to give you an overview about what we have developed in Brazil for the semiconductor industry, and introduce the Brazilian Association of the Semiconductor Industry that was funded. I'm one of the founder of this institution in 2014, and we are now close to have 20 companies. It's important to say that here we only consider industry association that could do the dedicated for semiconductor and are really doing the semiconductor business in Brazil. We are not taking global companies or electronic companies to our association, because this association only speak on behalf of semiconductor activities in Brazil. In order to give you an overview about Brazil, we have 8 companies in IC design. They are all servicing companies. All those companies are servicing abroad, Brazil, so they are servicing global companies, and they employ 513 designers. So it's a small number, I know, but it's important to look at the opportunity, because USA owns 32% of the designers in the IC design area. China 28, India 19, so it runs for 79% in total, only 3 countries, which means that we in Brazil believe we can start to develop talents, and that could be an opportunity. It's already well said here about the lack of talents we have in the semiconductor segment. So this could be an opportunity for Brazil. Is one of the areas that Brazil is investing, is to develop talents for the semiconductor industry in different segments, in different areas. On the manufacturing operating side, we have the major business in the IC and package and test area. 5 companies doing the business in Brazil. Other 4 in different activities, including solar cells, as here already mentioned. And we have 2 companies in the front end area. They are now no operating companies. One is a Saytech, which is now coming back to operation, was a great opportunity for investment in Brazil. Is a Ministry of Science and Technology owned company, and being in discussion to be privatized. And they have a very nice infrastructure to develop certain levels of front end. Also Unitech, with an infrastructure that was not yet put in operation, but could be an opportunity for investment. But we think that the major opportunity for Brazil is to continue to develop the package and test area. Once we already have in Brazil about $1 billion in semiconductor activities locally developed in Brazil. That's mostly done by these 5 companies in the packaging, and those companies are actually has already invested in the ABSEMI, not only those 5, but those almost 20 companies in the ABSEMI already invested $2.5 billion from 2014 when we start tracking this investment in Brazil. So meaningful investment for a small business, over 2,500 employees, over $230 million in investment in R&D. But when you look to the bottom right side of this slide, it's important to say that Brazilian government has gone to a plan here called the PADES. PADES is responsible for the growth of semiconductor industry in Brazil. I don't recall having in history a revenue in Brazil that rounds to $1 billion in pure semiconductor activities, not electronic, but just semiconductors. But the incentive is given is actually equal to the tax collection that those companies are generating, which means the investment has been paid off, and that's a good news, so we can invest more. This slide is important to show the local products we are now producing and the applications. You can see here we are widely producing products for the IT segment mostly, and now coming the opportunity in automotive, as it was already mentioned here, with a local support in Brazil. But one important number here is to say that 70 to 90% of the products in this segment, servers, desktops, notebooks, all these products listed here, 70 to 9% is actually made in Brazil. That creates a local market that's very interesting for semiconductor opportunity. This is not exhaustive, but give you an idea about the expertise. So we are now really mass production in Brazil with a chip design for certain ASICs, controllers, RFID, smart cards, sensors, among others. Those are the major products that we are designing in Brazil. We also have a product design SiP, system in package, with a different type of products, including products related to IoT. Single multi-package, EMCPs, UMCPs. The majority of the business in Brazil is actually related to the packaging and test of memories, high-end memories, actually for EMCPs, UMCPs, for smartphones, for tablets, for computers, for servers. And those actually end up going also to the memory modules, which can go to data centers and other products. So also design and manufacturing for SiPs, from wafers So combining memories, controllers, developing software and firmwares, combining radio frequency device and broadcasting device. We are now making certain products from SiPs. It's going to be an important capability for upcoming growth in the 5G, in the automotive, and specific IoT markets. We also fully capable designing our substrates, our PCBs for all the major markets we serve, and of course the full encapsulation process and materials that are designed for those segments, including firmwares and test programs for our products. In the manufacturing side, we are running world-class manufacturing and Industry 4.0, machine-to-machine communication. We are developing our internal MES for system management. So each of those factories has a specific MES developed by ourselves. So most of the lines are pretty much automated and made, including utilization of robots, especially in case of testing area. And we are grinding down wafers to the level of 30 micrometers as of now. That allow us to do packaging to the level of 16 die packaging and 12 multi chip packaging. So that's pretty much what we are doing in mass production in Brazil. When you look to the opportunities, and here I said how important Malaysia is, especially with the packaging serving about 13% of the market, we see this as an opportunity in Brazil, especially because when you look to this page here, even though there is no Malaysian name here, I'm sorry about that, but it might be others so. But we see here clearly, US with 11% wafer fabrication, and their goal with CHIPS Act goes to 30%. We see China very important in the packaging with 38%, US only 5%. Brazil with a $1 billion mostly in packages is still very small, but we may come as an opportunity just like to grow, just like Malaysia is doing, in order to grow our packaging and test capability to serve abroad, which is now serving only domestic market. We see the opportunity to join Brazil into a supply chain resilience program, partner with a Malaysian, looking to a more investment in Brazil to serve Brazil, US, Europe, or even abroad. So we believe this is the way to start expanding business in Brazil by expanding our packaging and test capabilities with an investment and future, just like mentioned by the Malaysia Industry Association 2030. Brazil also is challenging future to have a wafer fab. And right now we are looking for investment to burst our existing wafer fab, small wafer fab of SATEC or Unitec. So here is the major pillars for developing of the Brazilian industry. This is pretty much what the Brazilian government has developed across the years with support from industry leaders communicating what is necessary to do in order to improve the semiconductor business in Brazil, which is access to low-cost funding, access to in the international market, and especially in the procurement and sales area, of course, importation, exportation, and reduction of the taxes for the investment, especially CAPEX, and all the materials. So that already created an ecosystem, like I said, that has developed the business, especially in the test and in the packaging. Another one is developing R&D. Already we saw some example of R&D developing in Brazil in El Dorado, and this is very much essential to the developing and the continuation of the business. So also we are investing in education, technology, capacitation for the human research in the semiconductor. So either on universities, R&D centers, or dedicated graduation in semiconductor area that could burst the talent and could develop the talent in Brazil. I mentioned 500 designers in Brazil, 2,500 employees in Brazil in the semiconductor area. But there is a lot of Brazilians working abroad in the semiconductor segment. We wanted to be able to develop a business in Brazil in order to bring back those, just like mentioned by the Malaysian industry right now. We have the same intention to repatriate these experts we have in Brazil in the semiconductor in order to develop more business in Brazil. And last, tax incentives and regulatory landscape also help. Brazil has IT laws I mentioned, which call for Brazilian basic production process that gives incentives for those that manufacture in Brazil in certain level by choice. Also, PADs, the semiconductor industry, also Lei do Bem, which is basically an incentive for the R&D area, and the Manaus Free Trade Zone in the down center of Amazon, which we have also a free tax zone. By organizing this ecosystem and taking advantage of those incentives, Brazil has been dragging down the cost and creating more competitiveness and attractiveness. More recently, we are now discussing, and we expect this to come soon in Brazil. That could be an opportunity for the next 10, 15 years to continue investing in semiconductors in Brazil. We are now calling Brazil Semiconductor Plan, new PADs. We are not clear about the name yet, but these will basically be sustainable by these 6 pillars here. So which means no tax in production chain. So for semiconductor products, it's extremely important we create an equal ecosystem for cost as we have in Asia, as we have abroad, in order to compete in Brazil and abroad. Another one is incentives for R&D. We already have. We need to increase the incentives in R&D, especially to develop talents and also develop technologies. Domestic market creation. Brazil is 220 million people. Brazil has still a huge amount of people, quantity of people that is opportunity for the IT market. They are still growing in IT consumption. So the latent market is huge. Creating this demand could create a lot of opportunities for Brazilian companies. But of course, we need to export. We need to create a fast, simple, and costless custom clearance process in order to import and export our goods and develop HR. And of course, in the end, we need low-cost funding, equity, and capex investment. So this new PADS program is going to create opportunities in all those pillars here. This is my last slide, just the conclusion. Then I'm trying to be very quick here because I know we are going ahead of time. But we believe that this is the great moment for semiconductor area. We see the largest investment in semiconductors factories in the whole history of semiconductors now. In the last year, this year is coming now. So we see the lack of opportunities, the lack of professionals, the opportunity to develop professionals. We think Brazil could be one of the providers of good engineering and good human research. We see that the jobs is needed everywhere. 900,000 jobs we heard here today is going to be lagging from in 2030 in the semiconductor. We think Brazil, with the new PADs, could reinforce the semiconductor and join the global semiconductor chain somehow. We think that semiconductor is the heart of a technology innovation. A country like Brazil should, of course, make strong efforts to participate in this segment. And the dominance of the industry will be extremely important, not only for national economy, but also for the technology interests. Being so, we believe the Brazil geopolitical region, being nearshoring, friendshoring to every country. Brazil has no restriction to play. Brazil is easier to play than most of the abroad countries believe so. So we need to now make this kind of forum. We need to start discussing with other countries our opportunities, show what we have in order to really attract new investment and develop our market. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes. Thank you to all the panelists. I think we are at the last stages of our webinar today. Just 2 more quick sections. First is the wrap-up session by Vijay, and then closing remarks by Ambassador Avi. But firstly, on the wrap-up session, there are so many ideas and possibilities that have been suggested today. That is why I want to invite Vijay Kumar, who is the Vice President of Manufacturing and Specialty Memory at Smart Modular Technologies, to do the wrap up. I don't think we will have time for questions because we are running out of time. But Vijay is very suitable to do this wrap up because he has experience working in Malaysia as well as in Brazil. And currently he's also responsible for global operations in Penang, as well as I know in the US. So he is a suitable person to see, from what we have heard from the 8 speakers today, what sort of possibilities we have and where are the possibilities of collaboration for further discussion. Can I invite Vijay to do the needful and give us some sharing and see where we are in terms of opportunities. Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you, Andrew. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. Ambassador Quintella, members of the embassy, members of the Ministry of Brazil, and members of Ministry of Malaysia, panelists, and fellow attendees today. First of all, good evening and bon night to the Brasileiro. There's few Brazil language that I still remember that I don't think I can speak anymore. Been years. Anyway, I've been asked to share my experience. Not so much on the collaboration like what Andrew said, but also what's the advantages that we have seen in Brazil in my 3 years of deployment in Brazil, right? And I was the head of the operations for Smart Modular Technology. As I arrived there, Rogerio is the general manager as well as head of sales. So we both collaborated extremely well. In fact, before I got there, Rogerio managed to do all the background jobs to make my life much more easy, actually. So that's how far we go back. Now, just to give a testimony, right? Started with just a small number of like 70 people operations, right? And keep in mind that the Smart Modular, this is the first ever site that has back-end assembly and test for packaging, right? None of the sites have that, right? So we decided to start something from scratch. And and even in Brazil back then, right, we were the first ever memory packaging company. So to start something like that, and in 13 weeks we were up in production in just 13 weeks. Right? That's how well the team has done. So I'm just going to share with you how some of those things that have been fruitful for us, where I believe that the collaboration could help, right? And in fact, to even go further, Brazil eventually became 60%, a small operation became 60% of the total company in terms of contribution to the top line, bottom line. That's how big Brazil have become for Smart Modular Technology. So let me start with just talking about the key point, right? I think the most, or in my opinion, the most important thing that helped us that time was the people. I think the people, the whole pack, like what I mentioned, within the company, we don't have any expertise, right? So we hired literally anybody with semiconductor industry back then. And one of the things that the government, Brazil government, have made it easier also in terms of talent acquisition or even bringing in some technology transfer. They allowed us to bring in some of the Korean consultant, right, who they brought in, not as a management, but people who became consultant to engineering and process development and all those things that helped us to train. So Brazil was run completely with 100% local talents, right? And from engineering, from management, right? So that has helped us truly, in over time, where the training took place. And we send our people out to all the equipment vendors as well. And in packaging, truly, it's not labor intensive. So if we find like we grew from 70 people to 150 people, that's not reflect, right, what the growth is. But in actual, because of it's all very much equipment intensive, right? So the other thing that all the training with the equipment vendors have also helped us to get the know-how. Now, going further with the people, one of the things that I've saw completely different and very much to Malaysian, being a Malaysian, is the culture of people wanting to be in manufacturing, getting their hands dirty, right? That's what we saw in people. So it was like as if I'm managing a Malaysian team. That's how I felt, because people were all hardworking. They come in and by the way, there's one factor I would say even different from us. We kept the shift as fixed morning and night. I was to the request of the employees, because those operators who were with the morning shift would go and study at night. In fact, 70% of the operators were studying engineering at night. And those who are at night would request to be staged completely on night throughout, and they would go for afternoon class before coming into work, right? That's how hardworking people were. People took education and technical capability as something very key to them, right? So that has helped us to develop the team from scratch to really competent, like what I said, Brazil become a better one, right? So I'll go quick, Andrew, I know you're waiting. So, and of course, the education, so I even had the liberty of attending classes, sitting with some of the employees that we had, someone enjoying the syllabus covered were not just theoretical, but very much reference to the what we do in companies. So, and not to mention earlier, we heard presentations about how institutions have come for, worked with us, right, together as a collaboration to develop some of the capabilities that we have. In fact, Smart even donated some of the equipments that we had to some of the institutions to get the training in place, right? So that has helped us a lot. So people factor and education factor became very good. And the other factor that I would say, infrastructure, right? Mostly the industrial. In fact, we, initially we started at Sao Paulo. We moved to a place that no one probably would have heard other than people from Brazil, which is Atibaia, right? It's a small city. Even I took a year before deciding moving there, because I was traveling an hour and a half every single day from Sao Paulo. That's how small the place was. It's like a two-row ship, right? And the condominium started, but then the infrastructure that came into play, right, to make sure the industry, we will have the mayor coming in, councillor coming in, everybody to look at the needs of the industry. So there was so much emphasis. We were about 40 minutes from Campinas, probably 40 minutes from Jinjai, if I still get that right, Georgia, I'm not sure. But, so, and kind of like this is a newly developed, but today, I believe Atibaia have grown to be a big industrial city, I believe, right? I've not been there for the last 10 years, so I may not say that, right? So, but I do believe the infrastructure have been a key. Road systems to labor supply, and everything was much more easier comparably to the big cities that they had, right? And I think government support, I don't elaborate too much about it, because I think the paddies really helped. As I mentioned, the government officials keep visiting to making sure that we grew from one building to taking up almost 80% of the whole industrial area, all the buildings. Roger took all the buildings, as many buildings as possible, actually, right, eventually. And again, the final one would be, again, I will commend the leadership, right? I mean, in 100% leadership, complete. And Brazil is the only site for us where it's an independent entity, which means they do their own sales, right? They do their own development of product, and they manufacture on their own. And it's not just packaging. We manufacture from packaging, from back-end assembly test, and build them into module and ship it to as a complete memory module and flash and to the customers, right? I mean, you saw the list of products that Roger represented just now. So to do all of this, the expertise is so important, but then having 100% local management with completely competent in terms of every aspect of it, it's something that Brazil, as I said. So my testimony to Brazil was an amazing journey for us, and they became such a significant component to Smart Modular, right? So with that, thank you so much, and obrigado.
Thank you, Vijay. Yeah, I think the first eight panelists talked a lot about the things they're working on, and what I saw is that there are a lot of similarities, but what you touched on was the most important of all, the work ethic, the pro business government, and then the people, their eagerness to learn and to get into manufacturing. That is actually what makes the final decision whether or not to collaborate and to work together. I think that's the most important. Thank you for your sharing, Vijay.
Most welcome. Dinada.
Thank you. I've thanked the participants. I also would like to thank Ambassador Ari Quintella for organizing this again. I think as the YB Liu, our Deputy Minister, mentioned, it is quite refreshing. I've never done something like this, and hopefully we can have follow-up. And thank you, Ambassador Ari, for organizing this. So with that, I want to invite Ambassador Ari to have his closing remarks and to end the webinar. Ambassador Ari, thank you.
Andrew, thank you once again for your moderation at this webinar and for facilitating the discussions and for supporting the event since its inception. I believe that Mr. Kumar gave a very good wrapping up, as a matter of fact, of the whole webinar. Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar, and it was very nice seeing you again virtually. Mr. Kumar came all the way from Penang to our National Day reception on September 7. 7 de setembro. So it was very nice meeting you there, and thank you very much. And I think that what you said shows, exemplifies very clearly all the potential between Brazil and Malaysia in the field of semiconductors. So thank you very much for those words. But I would like to express my gratitude once more to all the panelists. I learned a lot this evening in Malaysia, morning in Brazil, and I found all the presentations very insightful. Thank you, all of you, for this. I also would like to thank our esteemed audience for putting up with us, and it's nearly 9:30 p.m. in Malaysia, so thank you very much for being with us. And I was able during this webinar to identify representatives from many important Malaysian and Brazilian institutions, including government agencies, private sector, and research and development organizations. Thank you, all of you. And I believe that your presence today at this webinar underscored the importance of advancing this agenda. And please, I would like you all to know, both Brazilians and Malaysians, that you can rely on the support of the Embassy of Brazil here in Kuala Lumpur for this endeavor. And I feel confident that today's webinar is just the first step towards fostering bilateral collaboration and cooperation in the semiconductor industry. While we mustn't jump ahead of ourselves, I believe the discussions today have opened the door for us to plan, with the support of our Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation in Brazil, a Brazilian mission to Malaysia next May. I look forward to the possibility of meeting all of you in person soon. Have a wonderful day or evening, depending on your time zone. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado a todos. Muito obrigado pela participação. Até logo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you, Ambassador.
everybody. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Até logo a todos.